What is going on, Slumpbusters? This is your boy Kyle, and this is our 2021 NBA preview. I am, of course, Slumpbusters NBA correspondent for the 2021 season, and to kick off the season, I wanted to bring y'all my official tiers list of NBA teams for this year. So every single year for the past couple of years, I've pretty much organized every NBA team into tiers. We have about 6 usually, sometimes 7, but this year we came up with 6 tiers to fit every single NBA team into so that you can get a pretty good picture of where your team stands, where your rival's team stands, and what the landscape of the NBA is going into a 2021 that, at least for now, looks like everyone has a fully healthy roster compared to last year's bloodbath in the playoffs. Before we start this episode, make sure to follow the Slumpbuster here on YouTube. Check out the Caveman Coffee Co. and use the promo code SLUMP for 15% off your order. The link to that is in the description to today's episode. So let's start off with the top tier just for the sake of simplicity here, and because we should probably put the important teams at the top first. So here are the tiers that I've organized for this year. We have tier 1, aka championship contenders, tier 2, aka second round exits, tier 3, aka fun teams to watch. You can also kind of correlate this to teams that expect to make it to the playoffs this year, and they're going to be fun to watch even if they don't have championship expectations. Then you have tier 4, wildcard teams, tier 5, the bad teams, and tier 6, the bad but also tanking teams going into 2021. So let's start off championship contenders. 3 right off the bat, I'll hit you with. Brooklyn Nets. With or without Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn gets to be right in the top of the championship tier. By virtue of just having Kevin Durant on their team, you immediately get put in the championship tier. This is the hack that Kevin Durant figured out when he was playing with the Golden State Warriors, is that he makes any team immediately a championship contender. Came back from an Achilles injury and averaged 32 points per game last year. No doubt Nets get to be in the championship tier. Milwaukee Bucks, no question. You have a 25-year-old, 2-time MVP, NBA champion, and Defensive Player of the Year, who, by the way, should be a 3-time MVP, by the way, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Bring back the most of the core of a championship team from last year. Yes, you lose PJ Tucker and replace him with Dante DiVincenzo being fully healthy, but for the most part, same Milwaukee Bucks team, totally capable of winning a championship. And the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James might not be in that elite tier anymore. I think going into this year, only Kevin Durant and Giannis are really in that elite tier. Part of that's just Kawhi Leonard being injured, but LeBron's not quite there anymore. But him and Anthony Davis in tandem makes them the only team in the NBA that has 2 of the top 6 or 7 players in the NBA. Brooklyn has James Harden, who's probably right there too. So one of 2 teams in the NBA that has 2 of the 10 best players in the NBA. So those 3 easily championship contenders. Now we got a bunch of teams that are going to be fun to sort the rest of the way through. So we start with the Miami Heat. Miami's interesting. So they added Kyle Lowry over the offseason. Miami brings back Duncan Robinson, signs PJ Tucker from the aforementioned Milwaukee Bucks. Bam Adebayo is going to be back this year. Miami expects to make it to the second round in the Eastern Conference. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know, but I think anything short of that would be a disappointment. So Miami gets to be in the second round exit tier 2 for Miami. We've got Portland. Portland had an interesting offseason where would Damian Lillard stay? Would Damian Lillard not stay? It's a little bit of an interesting run for them over the past few seasons, where 2019 they made it to the conference finals. After that, they've kind of just been bouncing around first round exits at this point. Didn't really do too much to add to the roster, so I will put them in the wild card team tier. Feels like they're headed towards wild card territory since they didn't really get much better this year. They might have to play the play-in game on ESPN at the end of the season. New York Knicks, they're a fun team this year, but are they good enough to be a first-round exit? Because the Eastern Conference got significantly better. They did add Kemba Walker, which is a good idea, but they were also kind of a sneaky, lucky team last year. We saw that against the Hawks. Knicks are going to be wild card team. I can say from this point in the season, you can write it down. The Knicks are going to be somewhere between 7 and 10. We're going to watch the New York Knicks in the playoffs playing in that wild card play-in game or best of 3 series or whatever they decide to end end up doing. So New York Knicks definitely get to be in the wild card tier. Memphis Grizzlies. Ooh, okay. Memphis comes back with a fully healthy Jaren Jackson Jr., year 3 for Ja Morant. They made it to the first round last year by upsetting the Warriors. They won one game against Utah and then kind of got bounced out of the building the rest of the way. So let's say Memphis is a first round exit. They get to be in that first round exit tier, and they're going to be a fun team to watch because Ja Morant is like a human highlight reel at this point. Denver Nuggets. Man, I hate this so much because Denver doesn't feel like they're in that second round exit tier because the Clippers are the team that's really confusing here. Denver might be the second best team in the conference right now, which is kind of weird to think about. I guess the Lakers are just so far ahead, but Denver's like one injury away from making it to the championship. You know what? Denver gets to be in the championship contender category. I know Jokic was kind of a weird MVP last year. They didn't have Jamal Murray in the playoffs. They got bounced in the second round by a healthy Suns team. Denver gets to be championship contenders this year. Not that Jokic is going to win another MVP, because I don't think that's going to happen, but they're the second best team in the Western Conference. So by virtue of that, they're one weird Lakers injury away from being in the NBA Finals. Is it weird that the Western Conference isn't as good this year? Washington Wizards. Okay, so they traded Westbrook this offseason. They get Kyle Kuzma to basically replace him. They get some of those Lakers rejects like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Montrezl Harrell. I think Spencer Dinwiddie is there now, but I think all those players don't really elevate the team. As long as Bradley Beal is still a Wizard, and I think that's going to be the case, and as long as Bradley Beal can play, because I think he's one of those anti-vax dudes, they get to be a wild card team. So we'll put them in the same tier over there with Portland and with the New York Knicks. Oh, okay. Let's get to the Clippers now, because the Clippers, without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George being their best player, are they a fun team to watch? I don't know if they're fun with Paul George as their best player. If Paul George misses like 2/3 of the games, their season could already be derailed, because then your best player is what, like Marcus Morris after that? You know what? With no Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers are a wild card team. I know that we've put a lot of teams in the wild card so far, but no Kawhi Leonard, I think you can put the Clippers in the wild card tier. And again, for people who may not know, Kawhi Leonard had surgery on his ACL, and he's supposed to be out until about March. So maybe come playoff time, it gets better, but let's operate under the assumption that Kawhi Leonard's not going to play the entire season. Clippers get to be in the wild card tier with no Kawhi Leonard. You add Kawhi Leonard back, I would just need to see what version of Kawhi Leonard we're getting back. So Clippers vacate the top of the Western Conference for the first time in like 2 years. Dallas. I think Dallas expects to make it to the second round. They were almost there last year, right? They went to 7 games with the Clippers, and if not for Luka Doncic getting injured, they might have gone to the Western Conference Finals, having like that neck, back, shoulder injury thing. They did give Tim Hardaway all that money, which I don't like, but he is still a pretty good player. Yeah, Mavericks get to be second round exits this year. The Mavericks expect to make it to the second round. They expect to finally win a playoff series. Obviously, first year with Jason Kidd, but they expect to win a playoff series this year. They might not do it just because, we already got the Lakers, the Nuggets, and them, and we haven't even gotten to Phoenix yet. So they might not make it, but I think they expect to make it to the second round. So they'll be second round exits there. San Antonio Spurs. So they lose DeMar DeRozan this offseason. I know Spurs fans want to believe, but there's not a lot to work with there for San Antonio. It's DeJounte Murray being their best player. Lonnie Walker gives them big minutes. Jakob Poeltl's still hanging around. I think Thaddeus Young is there now, but Thaddeus Young for DeMar DeRozan is a significant drop-off. They missed the playoffs the last 2 years, didn't really do much in the draft. Yeah, San Antonio, it's strange to admit it, but I'm pretty sure San Antonio is a tanking team this year. Let's put the Spurs in the bottom tier. They bad and tanking so far this year for the Spurs. Next up, Indiana Pacers. Okay, so Caris LeVert's going to be back fully healthy this year. Do they get to be a wild card team? Because the Bulls got better. They weren't a wild card team last year. The Hornets were a wild card team who lost to the Pacers. Yeah, Indiana's going to be bad teams. Indiana, not quite wild card, but Indiana's going to be a bad team this year because them being the 10 seed last year felt kind of weird. But this is the Pacers. Like, the Pacers have weird seasons where they get 5 seeds or 8 seeds all the time. So maybe the Pacers overperform, but if the Knicks are a wild card team, the Pacers are definitely in the bad team category because they're at least a tier below the New York Knicks. Ooh, Pelicans. Zion. This is a weird team, isn't it? Willie Green's the coach now, third coach in 3 years for Zion Williamson. Last year, pretty much just a lost year for the Pelicans, but they've got that magical dude in there, and Brandon Ingram's made an all-star team. Not much else going on around there. They've got Valanciunas now, so that's kind of cool. I think they want to get to the wild card round this year because they totally underperformed last year and were still the 11 seed, and like 3 games left in the season still had a chance of making the playoffs. So we'll put them with Ja Morant. I feel like the trajectories of Memphis and New Orleans are pretty similar at this point. So they expect to be first round exits, I'd say. They're fun team to watch. You got Zion. So they'll go first round exit tier. So tier 3 for the Pelicans. Okay, here's Boston Celtics. This is a big year for Jason Tatum. He's 23 right now. He's going to turn 24 in March. So by the time playoffs roll around, he'll be 24. That's around the age that Giannis won his first MVP. Boston fans keep holding out hope for Jason Tatum, and maybe last year's a little bit of a wash. I think just by virtue of having Tatum and Brown, you expect to be a second round exit. And the Eastern Conference sets them up well because we talked about Miami already and Milwaukee and Brooklyn. So if those are the top 3 seeds, then Boston could slide in at number 4. Well, the 76ers, we don't know what to do with them. So at the very least, they expect to win a first round playoff series this year. Might not happen, but Celtics get to be in tier 2 just because they have those 2 all-stars on their team. I think if you have 2 all-stars, you're almost a default second round exit. Even if Boston has a new coach, new roster around those guys, I think they're still a second round exit team. Detroit, Cade Cunningham season. I think just by virtue, I mean, they're a bad team. Like there's no way around it. Even adding Cade Cunningham doesn't change all the math for you. Are they actively tanking though? Does having Cade Cunningham make them actively tanking? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Pistons are just a bad team. They're not quite a tanking team, but they're a bad team. They do need some more draft picks, though. The Pistons need to get more players other than Cade Cunningham. I don't know what you can trade on that roster. Maybe a Plumlee somewhere else. Or is Plumlee still there? Plumlee might not even be there anymore. Anyways, next up, we have the Chicago Bulls. Bulls were a fun team. Bulls were a fun team to pay attention to this offseason. I think just by virtue of adding all those players, they can make it to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. If you bring in DeMar DeRozan, who's, at least a volume scorer, Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine's going to be back. Nikola Vucevic gets his first full season there. Even though Vucevic's a bit of an empty stat guy, I still think that's a big move. Alex Caruso helps. Yeah, Chicago's going to be a first round exit just by those 4 guys of Lonzo, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, and Zach LaVine. I think only one of them's an all-star. Maybe Vucevic could be an all-star, but they've got like 4 top 50 players in the league right now. So Bulls are going to be first round exit. Maybe they avoid the wild card. Maybe they don't. But if they do make the wild card, they should beat Washington pretty easily because Washington's got 1 top 50 player and the Bulls have 4 top 50 players. None of them better than number 25, but still 4 top 50 players is pretty good. Oh, Golden State. This is the team that's weird because in an offseason where nobody really added any players, Golden State adds a former all-star back into the wing with Klay Thompson. They didn't really lose anyone big this offseason, but Golden State, man, with Steph, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, maybe a healthy Wiseman. I don't know what Wiseman gives you at this point. Moses Moody. They got another rookie. Kuminga, I think they got 2 rookies. Pascal. It's low-key strength in numbers Warriors team. Juan T is still there to play good defense. Again, there's no teams at the top of the Western Conference. Man, I think just by having Steph Curry, that's got to get you there a little bit. Like, I wish we had an extra tier here. Like, could we separate championship contenders into like Lakers, Nets, and Bucks, and then like another tier for Nuggets, Warriors, and Suns? Like, that feels like a separate tier in and of itself. But let's put Warriors in championship contender, but it's not the same kind of championship contender. It's like 1B of championship contenders. Like Lakers, Bucks, Nets, that's like the 3 we all expect to win a championship. The other 2 are kind of like they could make it. They're 1 Lakers injury away from making it. They're 1 crazy Steph Curry run in the playoffs from pulling an upset. So Someone's got to make the conference finals in the West. Maybe that's Golden State this year. And it's so tough because we just don't know what Klay Thompson we're getting. But if they do get all-star Klay Thompson, or even just top 50 player Klay Thompson, how many teams added a top 50 player this offseason? It's just the Bulls, the Heat adding Kyle Lowry. It's about it. And then Klay Thompson coming back. They get to be, this is so hard. Let's say like 1B, but let's put them in championship contenders just so we can acknowledge that they're there. Phoenix Suns, damn, this is tough. Phoenix Suns gotta... No, I don't think we're going to get Chris Paul. Sorry, Phoenix. You got to be second round exit this year. I can't put 6 teams in championship contenders because there's barely 4. I can't put 6 teams in championship contenders. Phoenix, you got to be second round exit this year. You got to be in the second round exit group. And it's like no disrespect to Devin Booker. Like he's a 25-year-old 2-time All-Star who puts up crazy amounts of points. But I can't put you all in the same tier with Steph Curry. I can't do it. I know the Warriors don't have a second star as good as Chris Paul, but I can't put Devin Booker in the same tier as Steph Curry and Jokic. All right, next up, the Atlanta Hawks. This should be interesting. Do the Hawks get to be second round exit? Well, let's go through the Eastern Conference teams. So Bucks, Nets, Heat, Celtics. I guess the Sixers are coming up at some point here, so the Sixers will be there. I guess Atlanta is kind of fighting off the wild card teams at this point. They're kind of in the tier with the Bulls. So Chicago's a first round exit. And Atlanta's got to be a first round exit too. Got to put Atlanta in the first round exit tier. So Bulls and Atlanta are kind of in the same group in the Eastern Conference at this point. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Oof. Are they bad in tanking or just bad? Did they get any player in the draft this year? I don't think they did. I think their pick went to the Warriors. So they still got Cat. They still got Ant-Man. They still got D'Angelo Russell. Are they just bad or bad in tanking? I think they're just bad. I think Minnesota's just bad this year. I just hear those names and I think that it's there. But still, their GM also just got fired for having an inappropriate relationship within the organization. So maybe they are tanking. But maybe this is the year they blow it all up and just build around the Ant-Man. Who knows? The Rockets. Jalen Green's going to be interesting. John Wall's still there. Eric Gordon's there for now. I think Eric Gordon's going to get traded at some point here, but he's there for now. So given what they have, I guess they're a bad team. They're not quite tanking at this point, so we can put them there. Okay, is it time to finally address the 76ers? I think it is time to address the 76ers. So we don't know what the situation is with Ben Simmons. It looks like he's going to report to camp. He's in Philadelphia as of the time of recording this, so it looks like he's going to be there. Is he going to play? Who knows? Sixers are second tier, second round exit. I think even with, if you took Ben Simmons off the team entirely, I think they're still better than the Atlanta Hawks. I know they lost to the Hawks in the playoffs last year, but that was like a 1 in 770 fluke. I'd put the Sixers in tier 2 right there with the Heat and the Boston Celtics for sure. Orlando Magic. They got Jalen Suggs in the draft. That's definitely going to help for them. Orlando's tanking. They traded everyone last year. Orlando's easy tanking. That's probably the easiest one to figure out. They're trying to get the number 1 pick. I see Oklahoma City on there too. Oklahoma City, the 2 O teams, definitely in the bad and tanking group. You can throw OKC in there too. Oklahoma City, they did get the guy from Australia who's supposed to be pretty good, but Oklahoma City's actively tanking. They're trying to get a generational star in this next draft. No question about it. All right, Cleveland got Evan Mobley. So that was a victory for them. They've still got Sexton for now, but I don't think they're going to extend him on his new contract. So maybe he gets traded. Darius Garland is going to be their point guard for the year. Who knows what Isaac Okoro is going to be? He was their first round pick in 2020. This is just, Cleveland's not making the playoffs this year, like given the roster construction now. They're definitely not making the playoffs, but are they going to be tanking? Nah, they're not. They're not going into the season thinking they're going to be bad. They think they've got a little something there. Maybe Kevin Love gets traded too. Maybe they start selling at the deadline, but they think they got something there. Cleveland's just a bad team going into this season. All right, Sacramento. Shout out to the Kings. I don't know if y'all can see it, but right behind me, I got the Kings hat going on the desk. Shout out to Sacramento. It's about 15 minutes north of where I am. Kings are the hometown team. So many point guards. They're basically just the new version of the Orlando Magic. where they just start hoarding forwards, except they're hoarding point guards at this point. Should they trade for Ben Simmons? He could go either way. If you got to trade De'Aaron Fox, you make sure you get something else out of the trade from the 76ers. Like you get De'Aaron Fox for Ben Simmons and like maybe another player or maybe another pick. Not to say like De'Aaron Fox is better than Ben Simmons, but you can get Ben Simmons for a bargain right now. So I think the Kings are the likely fit for Ben Simmons. I'm going to show them love and say they're just a bad team this year. The Kings are going to be the same team they're always been, which is with 5 games left in the season, they're 4 games out of the playoffs. That's what the Kings have been for 10 years. I expect that's what they'll be again this year. Who's left on the board? Oh, the Utah Jazz. What do we do with the Utah Jazz? Second round exit. Utah expects to make it to the second round. Not going to guarantee they will make it to the second round, because how many teams we got in the second round tier here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the second round exit group. Utah's a second round exit. So if you've got Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, Suns, Mavericks, and Jazz, what does that mean? 2 of those teams aren't going to actually make it out of the first round, but Utah at least expects to make it to the second round this year. Pretty much the same team as last year. Probably not going to be able to hit threes at the same rate because they were just historically good. Still, second round exit. That's probably the goal for Utah. Finally, we have the Charlotte Hornets, the last team we have on our list here. Where does Charlotte fit into the mix here? Charlotte, you get to be fun team to watch. I'll say fun team to watch. I don't know how fun Gordon Hayward is, but the Hornets are probably trying to get a first round exit this year. Maybe they'll end up in the wild card group. Maybe they'll disappoint and fire James Borrego. But they should be first round exit, right? I think that's the goal for them, is to, match up against the Nets or the Bucks in the first round, kind of get a 7-game series. I think that'd be a victory for the Hornets. It's probably like the same stage the Grizzlies were at last year with Ja Morant in his second year, is kind of where they hope they get with LaMelo Ball. I'm sorry, I forgot about the Toronto Raptors here. Raptors are the last team I got on the list. They get to be bad and tanking. Sorry, Toronto. You guys are tanking this year. Malachi Flynn season, I guess. I guess that's the thing you can hold on to. Shout out SDSU, San Diego State, Malachi Flynn. Maybe he'll start for Van Fleet. Who knows? Yeah, y'all are tanking this year. Y'all are trying to get a top pick. That's our NBA preview show for the 2021 season. Make sure to leave your comments with your thoughts on this, and make sure to subscribe to the Slumpbuster on our march to 2,000 followers.